Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. My name is Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts.
And I'm Jim Floyd, owner of Ascent Total Performance. So, Jeremy, today we have the pleasure of hosting Dr. Adam Robin. He is a physical therapy practice owner in Mississippi. And so Adam and I got to know each other through another coaching thing and really aligned a lot on how we operate our businesses and our thought processes behind how we treat our staff members and our patients and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm really excited, Adam, to have you as a guest on the podcast.
Absolutely, Jim. Super. It's really cool, man, how people who are aligned always kind of come back, right? It's always coming back, right? And so like, I remember, I tell people all the time about that first day that we met and like, we kind of hit it off a little bit, and then it's like our paths came back, and it's really, really cool to kind of see what you guys are doing with the podcast and what you're doing with your company. I'm really excited to be here.
I think it's great. That's mimics what I was going to say is you put yourself in positions to grow, to expand your knowledge base, to be around like-minded people. And man, how awesome is that when you take that step, when you're willing to invest in yourself, you then surround yourself in community of those like-minded individuals. And I'm sure you guys are able to push each other farther than you could go on your own. Even though you could, in a sense, be considered rivals, you choose not to be. You choose to be collaborators, and that's outstanding.
Yeah, I think it's just a really cool thing to be able to align with people that have the similar viewpoints with things too. So I thought it would be a cool thing to talk about today. So not only is Adam owner, CEO of his physical therapy company, but he's also a partner in a coaching business called PT Owners Club as well. And so putting a lot of content out there and different things to really help business owners kind of navigate through that process too. So I thought we could really dive in today to really talking about that progression that we see from that start to as we start to grow, we take on more responsibilities and how we need to evolve as we go through those things too.
Absolutely. I think that's excellent. I'd love to start, Adam, with you've got this clinic and then you see the need there. And I know it's a partnership, but I'd love to hear a little bit of the story in our listening audience, how you got to where you are today.
That's a great question. So a lot of work early, right? Like, I guess everybody kind of has that experience. If you've ever owned a company before, the startup phase is tough. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of putting your head down in a trench and not looking up for a few years, and that kind of gets you out of that startup mode. But then eventually, once you're kind of on the other side of that, things start to change in your business and your team and the people around you start to demand something a little different from you. And so always just finding ways to challenge myself and to grow personally, professionally, connecting with my team in a different way. And then not only that, empowering them to come on the journey with me has really been my focus recently, just really kind of just evolving the way that I think, the way that I view my team and my position in the company all the time. That's really been my focus more recently.
Yeah, and I really think that, especially like in my journey, your journey, Jeremy's journey, all of our journeys we started up our own thing. We wanted to do it. We wanted to do that because we're entrepreneurs. We have that drive to kind of want to do it to our way. And as we go through that process, things change so much because when we start, we have control because it's us and we're doing things. And then we start to bring on more people. And so one of the big things I think that's a necessary change that we all have to make is it shifts from us being able to control everything to then now we have to really learn new skills about, so how do we manage people that we're bringing into our organization and how do we lead them and how do we get them bought in to what we're doing and excited about that and being able to shepherd them through those things.
Yeah, dude, really. Everybody's kind of got a different journey, but they're also very similar.
Yeah.
And, we get into that ambitious mode as a young business owner. And let's just be honest, like a lot of us, we started a business because we wanted to make some more money, right? Like we wanted to make some money, which is a cool thing, but it's so much more than that, right? But in the beginning, you don't really understand that. You really haven't developed as a leader to really kind of see the bigger picture. And I love what you said about learning how to let go and less control. And it's really about checking your ego, right? And realizing like, you're not that cool. You know what I mean? Like, you're not that cool, man.
Don't tell my kids that.
Yeah, like you're not that cool. You're not really as good as you think you are, right? And so learning a little bit more about like how to check your ego, how to embrace more vulnerability and authenticity, and really just giving people on your team more autonomy and independence to like spread their wings and flap and fly and give them room to breathe has really been a turning point for me.
Yeah. Well, what was that process like for you? Was there like a cardinal moment where you realized that, you know what, the way I'm doing it now is not the way I need to be doing it if we're going to continue to go the direction that I want to go?
Yeah, it honestly, to me, as I kind of reflect back on the transitions that I've had in my career, the things that really drive the transitions for me is just internal conflict, like having that just like internal resistance, right? Like, and that could be coming in the form of like not making enough money, or like it could also be in the form of having a hard time communicating with your team, right? Or not getting the outcomes that you're looking for. And so like whenever I start to feel those uncomfortable internal emotions, that is a really good indicator to me that it's time for me to kind of check myself and kind of reanalyze how I'm thinking about things. And, you know, what is the real problem and what is my position? Like, where should I be sitting to help solve this problem?
Yeah.
So constantly kind of working myself out of that internal struggle has been part of the process for me.
Now, one of the keys to all of this, and we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast started, was just delegation. You're in a season now of delegation, or trying to, do that, because you've got these two things, going on. You've got the clinic, you've got coaching, and these are two humongous tasks that easily could take up all of someone's time. How are you handling the art of delegation that I think we're all chasing expertise in?
Yeah. So the cool thing, my superpower is like taking on a lot of stuff, right? But also it's my kryptonite. Like I can get overwhelmed very quickly if I'm not careful. So I'm sure some of you guys probably have some experience with that, right? We're quick starters.
Just a little,
take over the world,
bit.
I mean, there's only so many times you can do that before you realize like, okay, I can't do everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, again, like internal conflict, schedule starts filling up, things start kind of slipping through the cracks, and that's no fun. That's hard. So all that to say, like, my ability to constantly be reanalyzing where my attention is and what I need to be focused on, and that evolving at a rapid pace has been the thing that's helped me kind of get out of my business. Right. So like, for instance, I'll give you guys an example. Leadership team meetings, super important part of running a company. Like, but do I have to run those meetings? You know what I mean? If you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I'd have been like, absolutely, I have to run those meetings. Like, those are super important to me. Like, if I'm not there, then what the heck? The company's not going to go where it needs to go. Right. But as I've elevated myself and I've empowered others to elevate themselves, and I train them like, this is what a leadership meeting looks like.
Yep.
This is what it means to cast vision. Hey, do you think you could do this? Right. So things that used to be really, really big fires to me are becoming smaller as I empower other people to take those types of things over.
Yeah. And I really like that. And I think it's an important thing to talk about when you're dealing with delegation and stuff, because you'll have people out there telling, oh, you got to delegate everything and you got to do all that stuff. So they're right to an extent, but you got to make sure that things that you're still there to guide and make sure that you're modeling the way it needs to be done. and coaching that to enable you to be able to delegate, and to where it's not just like, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna have anything to do with this. I just need you to take care of it. And there's definitely some learning things with that, but also like when it's your company, you do need to have some role in helping to guide and teach, like Adam, what you were talking about, like running the leadership meeting, stuff like that. You just didn't go to the person that you thought would do it and just say, hey, I want you to figure out how to do this. You're going to help coach them and guide them through that.
Well, Craig Rochelle is one of my favorite things that really helped me as I was getting deeper into this whole delegation thing. Was he actually talked about something that was foreign to me, and he talked about when someone's 50% ready, you let them go. When someone's 50% ready, you let them start to lead, because number one, they're never going to be 100% ready until they're actually in the action of, because you have to learn. But also it's the ability to know that it's okay if they fail, but to learn what they do with that. And I think we can all agree, like, what do you do from failure? Do you run and do you try to blame everyone else, or do you take ownership of that and do you look for ways that you can get better? And those, to me, those moments are how you see a leader's true colors. So they don't have to know everything, and they might be a little different than you. The likelihood they are. We're all a little bit different DNA mix up. We're all a little different. Just because they don't do it exactly the way that you would have doesn't mean that your way was right and theirs wasn't. So I think it's the art of training them up with what they need to know, but then being willing as a true leader to let them go and understand that they might not do it exactly like you do, but you've cast a well enough vision.
Yeah.
I love that, because when I was hearing Jim talk a little bit about delegation doesn't work if you don't have the right team.
Yep.
Right? We've got to have the right team. And as I've really kind of been gearing up and stepping up my game and things are moving a lot faster, I've realized that it becomes even more important.
Oh yeah.
The tolerance to mediocrity has to go way down, right? And we have to command excellence and not necessarily perfection, but the pursuit of perfection, right?
Yeah.
From not just me, but everybody on the team, and our ability to hold that standard to a high level. We have to have that if we're going where we want to go.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If we're going to open another clinic and open a third location, a fourth location, we don't have time for the bull crap. You know what I mean? We've got to go. So really getting clear on our purpose and our values and what we stand for and what we believe in, and being like a maniac and protecting that. And not just me protecting it, but every single person on our team protecting that like it's their life, guarding that. That's the thing to me that unlocks delegation and unlocks your ability to let that horse run. You know what I mean? They already believe what you believe. They already want to go where you want to go. They've read your books. They understand your policy. Let that horse run, because they're going to do it a lot better than you can.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just that basic, what we're all about, and that drive and that purpose of what we're doing is needs to be pervasive across organization. And I love what you're saying, Adam, because it's there's always that's always got to be the thing that's driving every decision that's made and every action that's taken. And we can always fall back to those things too when we're making decisions.
And I don't know about you guys, but my biggest pet peeve, I'd almost rather you take my wallet and run away, but my biggest pet peeve is taking advantage of me or of our organization as a whole. So, where you go, and that's where you get tricky sometimes with delegation. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about, is you have to have the right team. Because when you give someone a task and you trust that they're going to do that and do it well, and then you maybe find out that they're doing it 10% of what they could do, and they're just kind of taking advantage of that time, or they're taking advantage of the resources. To me, I'm a very trustworthy person, and I'm very trusting, but man, there's no worse feeling to me than whenever I know without a doubt that someone is openly taking advantage of resources or time.
Yeah.
Well, I think with that too, so you get very clear on what you're doing, what the expectations are, and you're really pushing those things. That's when you're going to see who's really wants to be a part of it and who's not.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no better way to really kind of start to have that filter is you're really leaning in those things that are the most important to you. And you want people on your team that believe in that too. And the ones that don't are going to do things that, and I've seen that in our business, and I know, Adam, you have in yours, and and then there's ways we address those things, and we can do them in a productive way, but ultimately those team members need to decide, like, are they really on board or not?
Yeah.
And that's fine if they're not. But
I'm sure we're the only 3 business owners that have ever had this problem. I'm sure no one else did.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're probably unicorns in this.
Foreign talk, So, well, I want to get on to something a little bit more fun, and something I think that our listeners are really going to love, because it's not every day that we get to talk with someone that is in a unique position like you, where you not only, like you said, run a clinic, but you have the coaching. And so my first question to you in regards to that is why? Like what changed you from doing this to saying, hey, I'm ready to do this? I'd love to know the why and the values behind that.
So my ego is my enemy, right? Just like all of us. And like I mentioned before, like my ability to, the more selfless I become, the more money I get in the bank. You know what I mean? And the more impact I make with my kids, and the more connection I have with my wife, and the more fulfillment I have as a person. And so I'm constantly seeking out ways to challenge my ego, to challenge my ability just to be completely selfless. And coaching is the ultimate sacrifice. Like you are like, it is not about you. It's completely about the other person. And the moment your ego kicks in, then you fail that person, right? So that is my ultimate level of service. And me being able to be a great coach allows me to be a great business owner, and allows me to be a great podcast host, like be a guest on the podcast channel, and allows me to be a better husband, and allows me to be a better friend. So my search and my constant reach for bettering myself is the reason why I got into coaching. And it's fun, man. It's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think I remember the first time we met, and it's been probably I guess about a year ago, something like that. But just you have that natural, just wanting to teach and talk about things. And you can tell you really enjoy doing that too.
I do.
And I think that, and I love what you're saying too about, like, you needed something that was going to challenge you in a different way. And I think a lot of times we'll see, as we progress through these different stages of business ownership and leadership and all that kind of stuff, the things that challenged us at the beginning or even at the middle aren't going to be the same things that challenge us as we progress through more.
That's right.
We get great teams that take care of a lot of those things.
And they say the best way to learn is to teach, and so
100%.
What an opportunity. Yeah.
Speaking
so
of delegation, if you want a great way to delegate, like, have people develop their own training programs, like, like, great way to delegate. I did want to make one other point. I always tell people that the greatest reward I've ever experienced with business is the personal growth and development that I've been able to experience just personally. And, we talked a little bit about those internal conflicts that we have as we kind of go through those stages of ownership. We have fear and insecurities and ego and all these things that are tugging at us. And our ability to overcome those is the thing that unlocks our potential, right? Like, that is it. And so I love helping owners overcome those things, right? When they come in and they're like, hey, Adam, I'm really nervous about this hire because I'm not sure if I have the money, right? I don't know if I believe in myself. I don't know if I can pull that off, right? Jim, you've experienced that before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how fun is that to be like, you've got this? You know what I mean? Like, look what you've done. Look what you've created. You've got the system. You've got the policy. And I want you to kind of like overcome this fear. And this is your opportunity to transform into a better version of yourself, and then helping people with that, and then seeing them come out on the other side is super fulfilling.
That's 100% truth. And I remember that time that you came and laid down on the couch, and I helped you through all of
That's
these
right.
conflicts.
I had the same experience.
I'm just joking. No, but what I think is really neat is, let's just say someone's going through, they own a business like you do, and they're like, man, like I have a heart of a giver. There's other businesses I know that they come and they ask me questions. I'm assuming that's kind of what sparked this interest for you, is other people reaching out to you and say, hey, how are you doing these amazing things that you're doing? What was it like as someone who maybe would be interested in getting into that? How did you go about like going from, hey, I'm going to think about coaching to I'm actually now coaching others? Because that's a big hurdle to go from I'm doing this, but now I'm trying to tell other people how to do this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that things changed for me in my therapy company whenever I realized that I was already a coach. I was coaching my team. I was developing my leaders. And everybody has a story of a journey that they went down and lessons that they've learned along their journey of like developing their business, growing their team, overcoming challenges. And your ability to like take those stories and package them into valuable lessons that are useful is coaching, right? Yeah. So it's less about me telling people what to do, and it's more about sharing the lessons that I've learned and helping them realize that they already have the answers, right? So practicing on your team is a great place to start. Also practicing with your kids. If you have kids, like when you raise kids, like you don't have to tell them what to do. Like especially if you have teenagers, right? Coaching them through the challenges that they're going through is a great way to coach.
Yep.
No, that's great information.
Yeah. I find myself, so in our company, we schedule, so I get to sit down with every one of our staff members and just do mentoring time. And that's my
He's had
favorite.
to kick me out 3 times. I keep trying to pretend that I'm in a staff, but
just,
I can't.
I mean,
trying to get that coaching.
So, but that's my favorite thing to do now. And I really echo what you were saying, Adam, about, so it's not so much of like me telling them, okay, you should do this with this patient. It's more that they might have some questions, but then I'll also just like, we'll talk about, this is what I experienced with this diagnosis, and this is kind of what do you think about approaching it this way? Exactly. And always asking those questions instead of just telling. And it's always like, well, what do you think? Like, why is this patient not responding this way? What else could we do? And that kind of thing. And so always framing it where we're not just telling, we're helping somebody through that thought process. And then it's like, then we're training them to, okay, this is how I need to think about this. Same thing for leadership stuff too. We've got almost every one of our current staff members are future leaders within our company. And now it's like, I get to have these really exciting conversations of like, so how should we handle this situation? And what do you think? Like,
that's because you're going national.
Yeah.
When you have 50 locations, I mean,
that's right.
You're going to have to have a leader for each one of those.
And,
right?
it's just really cool to be able to help coach them. It's like, well, let's think about how we're thinking about this. Cause I mean, most everybody's that first step is always going to be thinking about it from how does this affect me? But then also we start to expand that out to, okay, well, I'm considering how this is going to affect me. How's this going to affect everybody else? Mm-hmm. What precedent is this setting for everything we're going to do in the future? How is this going to affect our patients? How is this going to affect our whole business? How is this going to affect our other location? All those different type things. And so having them start to have that mindset of really understanding, like any decision that is made is not just in isolation. Being able to think through that whole process is a huge thing. And it's really fun to just get to help to coach people into moving with that mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that, Jim. And Jim is an awesome, powerful leader. So he's a little bit of a rare guy, but like Jim, like you've learned so many things about, like, I mean, you've grown so much, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I'm assuming that somewhere along the road, like you've developed some emotional intelligence, you've developed some type of self-improvement framework. It's called Jim's
Yep.
framework, right? It could be
Yep.
journaling, meditation, exercise, prayer, yoga, like whatever it is, right?
Yep.
That's your secret sauce. You know what I mean? Like that's, and your ability to like become more and more familiar with who you are and how you think and how you've changed the way that you think over time and build frameworks around that. Like that's how you lead people. Like that's how you help people overcome like challenges with patience or challenges with business or challenges with their teenage years or money problems or any type of problem. It all comes down like to knowing the human experience and the stages of that.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting because we learn about all these business principles and leadership principles and all that stuff. It all comes back to psychology.
Yeah.
And
Every time.
I mean, that's every single thing always comes back to that.
Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely right. And as we get ready to wrap this up, as we're getting near the end of our show, I just want to say, if you don't already know it, Adam, I mean, you're in a spot that people could only dream to be. And hopefully you take a step back sometimes and you celebrate how far you've come. And you obviously you're ready to continue climbing that mountain, and you're well on the way. It's been just an inspiration to be here with you today. But just in that moment, man, celebrate where you are, because you're accomplishing great things. You're making an impact on others' lives instead of choosing to be selfish, as well as it sounds like you have a phenomenal clinic. And I know from seeing gyms in action that you're impacting people's lives in your local community, over 30 staff. Man, you're just doing tremendous things. And that's something worth celebrating. It's an honor to have you hanging out with us here today.
I thank you so much. I really, truly, really appreciate that. And I love what you guys are doing. Keep doing this, because you guys are really making a big difference with your podcast, and I love to continue to support it.
Thanks, brother. I on a lighter note, I do want to say too. So Adam, I know you're a former collegiate football player. And so if anybody who's watching the video feed with this, I know Jeremy and I with our headsets and stuff look like sportscasters. So kind of feel like we're interviewing like a high level athlete, kind of like on Sports Center or something like that. So
would you like to be on the Gamecocks offensive line? We need some offensive linemen after the game on Saturday. We're taking anybody here.
But anyway, Adam, definitely, we always have a lot of respect for you. I love what you're doing, both in the physical therapy realm and the coaching realm. And just love seeing everything that you're putting out there and just the impact that you're making on everyone's lives. And so we really appreciate you coming to joining us on the Purpose Over Profits podcast.
Absolutely. Till next time.
Yep.